oftentimes when I'll meet people, one of the most common questions they ask me is, "Hey, Ernie, what do you mean when you say biofield?" So I've been noodling on that question for a while. I thought I'd spend a few minutes just talking about how I see the biofield, what it means to me. And I hope by answering that question that you will better understand what I'm doing in my research and in my practice, and also how you might use the biofield yourself. The first thing that I might say in response to that question is that the biofield is comprised of energy. The word itself has two components, bio and field. And so in the context of energy, the biofield might be simply described as the field of energy in any biological system, whether that's a single cell, whether it's an organism or a community of organisms, that there exists a field of energy that is inextricably linked to the life force and that gives life to organisms. And while that may be a simple and general definition, there's a lot under the hood, if you will, of that definition. And the first detail is, if you think about the biofield being made up of energy, it's not just necessarily made up of one type of energy, because there are many different manifestations of energy. Examples might be electrical energy. I mean, we know that the human body, for example, is highly conductive, and that much of the biochemistry and neurology and digestion that goes on in a human body, just to name a few, they occur because of electrical currents that are flowing through the system. They occur because of voltages that are firing and resting. For example, the heart being a good example. Another form of energy in the biofield is electromagnetic, because it's well understood that any time there's an electrical current flowing, that there is an electromagnetic field around that flow of electron-based energy that is inextricably linked to the electrical current. So the very fact that humans conduct electrical currents virtually requires, if you believe the physics, that there be electromagnetic fields associated with the human body and the human mind and various organ systems. Heat is a form of energy, and heat is very often, almost always, linked to the exchange of energy in other forms. So when I use the term energy as a foundational platform for my description of the biofield, I'm really describing a fairly complex possibility set of different forms of energy. And to overlay onto that energy spectrum is the fact that the human body is in and of itself not just comprised of a single field, but in fact there are a number of subfields within the human biofield. And just to name a few that I've been focusing on, one is the brain field, the field around the brain. And another one is the field surrounding the heart and within the heart. And the third one of particular interest to me is the central nervous system. I think I would describe the biofield as different than a single flow of energy. for example, the notion of a field really describes a multidimensional energy environment as opposed to, say, the energy passing through a copper wire in response to a voltage. You know, if you hook your battery up and flip the switch and all that, there's a flow of electrical energy and electromagnetic energy that travels generally in line with the flow of the current. But that's not the way the biofield seems to work, because it is flowing in many directions and being acted upon by energy from many different directions. And of course, it's all occurring in the dimension of time. So it's not just a spatial field, but it's a field that is in space-time. And at any one point in space-time that we look at the field, we have to invoke a fifth dimension that we can look at that same field at another time. So, dimensionally speaking, the biofield exists in at least 5 dimensions. And I think that's an important thing to recognize, that we're not just talking about a simple 2-dimensional, like cartoon drawing of the biofield, or a linear flow of electrical energy through a copper wire. I've always found it interesting that the ancient indigenous cultures knew that this energy field existed. They may not have referred to it as a biofield, but it's well known in many ancient cosmologies that there exists a field of energy that is associated with life. And they may have referred to this energy in a variety of different terms and illustrated it with a variety of different symbols. But irrespective, the ancients used this knowledge of life energy for a variety of purposes, even though at the time they were not scientifically aware of what it was and how it functioned. The ancients understood that there exists 2 interconnected and harmonic forces of energy at any level in the universe. The ancients would describe this harmonic polarity, I might call it, even though, again, at the time they were not yet able to describe these forces in terms of what we now know through modern physics and biophysics and biology. In fact, today scientists refer to polarity, wave functions, quantum spin, up or down, positive or negative. This harmonic polarity is used in modern physics, biochemistry, biology, to describe these very same forces at work in our universe. You know, the goal of my research has been and still is to combine this ancient wisdom of the life energy and the cosmic energy, to combine it with the discoveries of modern science so that we can better understand what this biofield is all about, for the benefit of ourselves, for others, and ultimately for the benefit of the world. These subfields that go to make up the human biofield, they can exist at the quantum level, in the subatomic regions of the nuclei of atoms. They can exist at the atomic and molecular levels, if you will, that allow bonding to occur in its varied forms. These subfields can exist in biochemical form, as our cells and tissues perform various functions, such as our brain function, our heart function, our central nervous system, our muscles, the blood and water, lymphatic fluids flowing through our bodies, carry with them certain subfields and currents of what ultimately makes up the biofield. And thanks to modern science, the presence of the biofield and its various subfields, we're starting to be able to observe these fields. They can be measured. And I've come across many scientific publications now which describe various aspects of the biofield. Of course, once we can observe and measure the biofield, then we can analyze it. And we can look at it over time. And we can make various changes, for example, to our diets or to our levels of stress. And we can either see the effect of those changes on the biofield, or we can explore how to use the biofield to help make those changes. And biofeedback is a good example of how that might occur, for example, through meditation or various other modalities to reduce your stress. We can now measure certain aspects of stress and anxiety in the biofield and then measure it again after a certain modality. So I hope this has been helpful just in terms of trying to drill down a little bit on what I mean when I refer to the biofield, because I remain very deeply involved in the research at many levels, including trying to come up with new inventions that will allow us to measure certain aspects of the biofield. I am trying to measure the biofield, giving full credit to both the science behind what it is and also the wisdom of its mysterious life-giving qualities. And I don't know if I'll be successful in these endeavors, but I'm having a lot of fun trying. So I hope you found this helpful.